welcome to another episode of the Solid Stage Podcast with your hosts, myself, Nat from Nap's Naughty Works LLC, Josh from North Country Woodworking, and special guest, making sure I'm muted over here. Okay, I am Tim from Gears and Fire. Thank you for joining us. He is the new host of the Solid Station Podcast. I'm joking, kidding. Nick is out and away on a cruise, enjoying himself. In whatever way Nick enjoys himself. I'm not really sure what that is.
For a second, this is a family show.
Yeah, whether it's just drinking and having a good time or trying to spit game, who knows. But, hey, we wish him the best. I hope he has a good time. Hope he comes back refreshed because I know he's needed the break for sure.
And STD-free.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I would say dysentery, that's not an ST, but it's still something that should be a
herpesitis gonorrhea. It's a thing.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. I mean, what? But hopefully he recharges, comes back strong next episode. But I'm glad he finally actually took a break. And he vouched August would be time off as well. So we'll see how well that holds true because we all know that we've said these things and still haven't done it. So outside of that, with Tim being our guest, Tim, I'm going to put you on a spot here, man. What's going on in your shop?
Well, I tell you what, that table that I've been working on for over a year now, it's still cooking, as you can see behind me. Mostly the major pretty pieces are done. It's just a matter of assembling that base assembly. So, I have the two leg. That's one of the two. Yep. I have a cross piece that goes across the bottom, and then I have a top frame. All I have to do is put it together. It's that simple, right? It's always that simple. So... No, honestly, the next step is really just making sure everything fits up all nice together. And then I still have to do a mortise and tenon for the bottom stringer, so that looks as nice as the rest of it. And then once it's flipped back up and over, I have to make some gussets for all the corners because I want this table to be rock solid. I don't know about you guys, but our dining room table upstairs, it is just a wiggly something. Anytime the kid bumps it, it spills the coffee. So I am on a mission to make this table as rigid as possible. So me being a man of SolidWorks and making everything rigid, this thing is over designed. So that's how we do it, right?
Over designing is not a bad thing, especially with children.
Exactly. So the customer that this is going to, they wanted a giant living room table or dining room table so that they could host family functions and play Dungeons and Dragons on with lots of people. So that surface on top's got to be rock solid. But going into this, I did not expect this to take as long as it has. No one ever does, right? Especially something of this scale. I thought I could knock it out in 6 months. Nope, here I am. I'm, as Jimmy DeResta frequently says, you go to school on the first project. I am going to school on this project, but I am learning just a ton. Again, using all sorts of hand tools, hand planes, and stuff like that, as well as just making sure everything's fitting the way that it should, and it looks pretty, right? So this particular tabletop that you see behind me, when I first bought the slabs were not as dry as the guy promised. So I had everything all nice and plain and straight, and when I glued it together, it's fine. Then it sat in the garage for about 2 weeks. When I came back out to the garage, that sucker was curled up quite a bit. So I had
that sucks.
I had to do quite a bit to get that guy to even out. Even, see the little lines? That's the underside of the table. So I had to cut relief cuts just to release even more tension, just to make sure that it gets flat. Again, every turn of this journey has been educational.
Well, because you did a lot of mortises and stuff, and then you dowel rodded all those in, right?
Yep, they're all dowel rods, and then at the end, I did do breadboard ends. That's again that. You think that would be enough to keep this guy flat, but no, that's how not dried these slabs were when I put them together. But so shame on him for not knowing any better. Shame on me for not knowing any better. But lesson learned: when you buy your lumber and you need it to be dry, make sure it's dry.
Do you have a moisture meter? I know Capro they just came out with a brand new one. And it's pretty cheap.
I do not. I had been looking at, the Wagner, right? They're the ones that make about the $300 range. I had been looking at those ones, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. I was actually going to purchase one in the near future. I had a job coming out to build a very large exterior door that was going to be like 48 inches by 96 inches. Just a massive door. It had a rounded top. So, like, going through all the plans for that. Like, this time I'm thinking, okay, Tim, make sure you buy dry wood. So I was going to go out and buy a freaking moisture meter. Like, this guy, the guy that I normally get my lumber from, he's built himself a kiln and he's kind of learning how to control it too. But I was going to do my due diligence and make sure it's dry. But unfortunately, that job fell through because she was building a house from the ground up and she wanted a custom door for that house. But life stuff happened on her end and she had to back out of it. So it's disappointing. But the nice part about that is, like, all the research I was doing to build an exterior door, like, I still have that information. So, like, I don't know about you guys, but I love learning as I prepare for the job, especially if it's something that I've never done before.
Well, shoot, what you're doing right now is something I want to eventually get to, as far as, like, mostly like using hand tools and things. Don't get me wrong. There's always a place for a CNC, right? There's always a place for that stuff. And even doing certain things, like, you know, for me personally, like, I don't have a drill press. Okay. I'm just going to put it out there. I should have a drill press, even if it's just a bench top. But if for some reason, you know, I really suck at drilling straight holes, like, I could sit there, I could punch it, nice, perfect, like, I'm straight up and down, I'll start going in, and the wood just goes, I'm like, oh, come on. So I could definitely...
You don't have the Rockler press?
No, actually, I don't. And I thought, you know, it's funny you say that because I totally forgot all about that. And that might not be a bad idea, something to invest in just for the time being. But I will get a real drill press, which I'm sure, Tim, you use a drill press, I'm sure, for some of your stuff.
I got a mid-'80s Craftsman drill stand, like a full-on stand from a friend of mine. He lived down in Arizona, so it's like pristine. I was pretty happy. Like, I mean, for all that, I think I paid like $125 for it. It's a steal. Like, it's got, you know, 5/8 chuck on it, and 0.5 horsepower motor, and different pulleys on top so they can run at different speeds. But I mean, those deals are out there. There's not many tools that I bought brand new, with the exception of my miter saw and the CNC.
Now, just for giggles, okay, because we had a conversation about miter saws. What miter saw do you have?
The Bosch with the weird little knuckly things. It's fantastic.
Interesting. We talked about the Bosch and...
Okay, so I should clarify. The only reason why I got the Bosch was because I was shopping through Menards. And for those of you outside of the Midwest, that was like... I don't want to say on par with Home Depot, but it's a pretty good store for that type of stuff. So, like, I had a Menards card that I was able to use. I mean, that's really the only reason. Like, it was the best one that Menards was carrying at the time, and I got that saw with the stand for a pretty good deal. I think they had their 11% off sale or something like that. And I jumped on it.
Beautiful thing about Menards is it's 11% off. Like, it's a rebate. So it's awesome when you buy like $300 or $400 and stuff at Menards and you send that in. You're like, oh, look at me. I got a coupon for my next buy.
Yep.
There you go.
Like, usually I get clamps or something useful, you know.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Ron? We got Victor in the chat as well. Hey, so real quick, Tim, switching gears for 2 seconds here. Victor asked, how'd your PC build go?
It went fantastic. So I don't know if you saw some of the pictures. I had to do a little surgery on the case just because the power supply I got, it was not a traditional power supply. Like, the hookups came from the side. Shame on me for not looking closer, but no, I made it work. With a little Dremel action, I was able to cut it up the side, and we make it work. But yeah, so far it's rock solid. I mean, if I were to like turn off the computer right now, reboot, and come back in, it'd be like less than a minute. It was like stinking fast. I mean, and on relatively affordable parts.
So where did you build your PC off? Did you use like PC Parts Picker or anything like that? Or
I knew what I wanted, and I just got everything on Newegg. But yeah, it's the only thing that I didn't skimp on was the processor. It was an i9 12900 KS. So like that's a nice freaking processor, and I'm not going to have to worry about that for quite a few years. It's good enough to run on SolidWorks. It's good enough to run Fusion 360.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff is the main reason why I bought it. Now, does it happen to support a little bit of gaming? I don't know, maybe.
Well, you know.
The graphics card isn't the greatest, but I just needed to turn the monitor around. So it's driving Vectric, it's driving vCarve Pro, it's driving everything that I absolutely needed to. At some point when I do get SolidWorks on this machine and not the laptop, then I'll probably have to upgrade it. But that actually brings up a pretty good question for you, fellas. Like, no, this is kind of a general question, but what is your computer setup in the shop? Like, how do you drive your different equipment? Where do you do your editing? All that stuff. Like, Josh, why don't we start with you? Like, tell me your computer setup.
So I have a. It's kind of a little bit different because of Xcarve and how that's set up. So I have a dedicated laptop to that. And that's just to run the CNC. That's all it's out there for. And then I use my MSI gaming computer, which, believe it or not, I did buy for gaming. And that was before I got into woodworking. Well, a little bit before. And that's become my, design, editing, laser, pretty much everything in between. That's what I'm recording on right now. Little did I know that I would be doing the things I'm doing now. So I kind of lucked out with buying a pretty good gaming computer that I no longer game on. That's my setup.
And so your laptop pretty much lives out in the garage, the one that drives your Xcarve?
No, it goes back. The one for the Xcarve, yes, that lives in the garage. My MSI comes in and out with me with the laser. You just have to start the job, and then you can disconnect and bring it inside. I tend not to leave that out there as much as possible. But this laptop is used daily, almost nonstop. So it's been holding up pretty well.
What about you, Nat?
All right, so don't judge cable management here, but I'll go ahead and just show you what this is. My computer there.
I'm judging harshly.
Okay, that's fine. I'll eventually clean up the cables. I actually might upgrade a couple pieces because I built this one myself, but I don't know crap about building computers. I had a little help, but it is PC parts picker, and looked at specs, make sure things matched, and built it specifically to run Vectric, Photoshop, all the video. So I do video editing for the podcast now, so I do it with that and whatnot. But how I actually operate in the garage. So this PC is hooked up to a switch that's above me here. That switch plugs into a wall jack that I actually wired in, which then goes into my garage. That then plugs into another wall jack that goes to another switch that spreads out to all my machines. So I'm able to actually run a screen with keyboard and mouse and run my, just run the same computer out there in the garage.
Okay.
So I have just that. And the reason why I did that was because I've had laptops out in the shop before. And this is before I really understood the difference between, and you're probably going to judge me here, but solid state versus a regular hard drive, right? The ones with the disk versus. So let's just say that I may or may not have done something in the middle of a job, and I smacked my computer that was not a solid state, and I killed my hard drive. And I can tell you, learned a lot there. Don't smack the computer. But I ended up not using the laptops anymore because, they're great to have out there and everything. But that's just one more thing that I can accidentally, knock off a table or whatever the case may be, hits the ground, whatever. At least now, if I knock over a keyboard or a mouse, it's like, okay, whatever. Like I can either fix it, put the keys back in if they fall apart, or I can buy a new keyboard. It is what it is with that.
Through that switch, that's pretty much all you need because you're not doing a lot of saving. You're not doing a lot of data transfer.
Well, what's beautiful, okay, so with Onefinity, and I don't have a Onefinity controller, but I have a Buildbotics controller. Yes, Victor, we know you're judging me, man. We know. I will eventually actually, because now I'm finally got a little more free space, especially with my new machine, which we'll talk about later. But with all that out there and the way the machines work, I can actually send files through Ethernet to my controller. So while I'm out there, I look up the IP on my controller, and I actually have a separate bookmark on my computer screen that I can pull up the screen that's on my Winfinity controller or screen itself, so I can essentially mirror it. The only thing different between the two is I can actually view 3D imaging on the computer side, whereas I can't do that on the actual screen at my Winfinity. So it's actually kind of cool because I can be like, okay, let me do this, view this, make sure the image looks good, make sure that it's actually going to do what I want it to do, and then I'll send it to the machine. So it works very well. As far as the laser is concerned, though, being able to run Lightburn off my screen right there and not have to do anything in here, it's great. Now, I will tell you, a lot of my programming, a lot of my designing, and everything happens right here at this desk. Right. But we all know things don't go according to plan sometimes, or we think of something better and we do things on the fly. So instead of having to run back in here like a bat out of hell to do stuff, I just stay out there and I just sit in my little chair, my little desk thing here, and I just sit there and I toy around with the program. So that's my computer setup and what I do as far as designing and all the things.
Okay. So. No, that's cool. Like, that's good insight. Like I said, I'm just curious to like what other people do as far as like where you keep your stuff that you want to keep dust free versus where you're actually interacting.
Yeah. I mean, a dusty keyboard and mouse isn't as bad as a dusty laptop. I can tell you that. And this is no offense to you, Josh, because most laptops are pretty well contained and you typically won't have an issue. I just don't trust myself, one, smacking it or knocking it off a table.
This thing has like a titanium body, all that nonsense. It's a pretty hardy beast. I've been bringing it, TDY deployments. It's gone to the desert more times than like I can count. So I mean, it's holding up pretty well for what it is. And the laptop that sits in the actual shop, I actually have all the ports that I'm not using. They're taped over, so no extra dust can get in there. So hopefully that helps. I mean, it's been out there for a while and does pretty good. So it would definitely be nice to have a setup like Naps. I'm not going to lie, but the house that I was in, when I get back, I'm basically moving. Wasn't really a good place for that kind of setup. So maybe the next one. Who knows?
So are you be on base or off base, Josh, when you go to Illinois? Is that going to be your final place, or are you going to go back to Jersey?
We don't know where we're going to finally end up. But we're going to definitely be moving on to base. So we have a kind of tight schedule, like it got tighter. So my son starts sooner than we thought in August. So we have to basically, I drive home from here. We pack the house, we leave and move in. And then a week later he goes to school. So we need to be in place pretty fast. And with 2 day to 3 day travel time, we really have to kind of book it. But, once it's said and done, this could be said and done. And I'll have time to set up my shop. Well, not really, because I got orders already. But, yeah, we'll get into that later. Let's continue with shop talk and whatnot. That's a whole chapter.
So, Tim, that was a great question, man. But I'm going to put it back on you now. Not as far as the computer setup, but the hand tool work. What drove you? Because I know, first of all, you're damn inlaid freaking
master
fiend. Like I've the Sawdust Nation podcast, cutting board you did was freaking phenomenal, right? Mm-hmm. What drove you to go from like doing the machining stuff to going a little more strictly hand tools, like with the projects you're currently working on?
I guess trying absolutely everything. Like I don't want to sound conceited, but like I did the inlay thing by watching somebody else, which, by the way, if you haven't checked him out, check out Broinwood, however you want to say it. That guy is the absolute master when it comes to inlays. That aside, I saw what he was doing. I figured it out relatively quickly, and then bango. I can stuff like that, right? Like,
yeah, that's freaking crazy, man. Like, first of all, those little dots, I would have done messed those up at least 6 or 7 times.
So, a bit of my past is like, do that, inlay that, please do that. I'll buy that. No, I had, okay, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. I saw Jimmy Dresta do this large bar, and on top he inlaid the I want to say it's Heart Beer symbol or whatever. And then I saw him like use a hand plane to get all the stuff on top, whereas I would have just used CNC. But either way, like just seeing that process and like seeing how good that turned out, it's like, I got to do that. I'm going to do it. And so I did. But like once I did like 4 or 5 of those boards, I'm like, okay, what's next? I had never done anything like that before. I had never done mortise and tenon before. Like, I'm just going to try this. How hard can it be? Famous last word.
It always starts like that.
Right. But like, I mean, I at the same time, I felt confident enough to try it because, you know, it's a rectangle going in a rectangular hole. I can make that happen. It might be a little bit slower, but I can make that happen and it will be precise. You know, I have a bit of machining in my background, not a ton of machining, but it's still there. It's still shapes going into other shapes. I just broke it down and simplified it like that in the way that my brain could kind of handle it. So that's why I felt confident enough to attempt something like that. And so, like, so far, so good. I still got some hiccups here and there, but we all adapt, right?
Yeah. Victor goes, I've said that too many times.
Yeah, Victor, I feel you, buddy.
Now, I could tell you with the inlay stuff, though, like, for example, there's, like, some math involved. I suck at public math. But I know, like, some of the videos out there, they say, like, hey, if you want a certain depth, like, your female should be this number, and then your male should be this number, and it should equal the total depth or something along those lines.
Yeah, yes, I know. I mean, you're on the right track. And my first 3 boards, I was using something similar to that, but I have since changed it just because of how inconsistent some of the inlays can be. And so by changing my depth of the plug and the shape of it, I get a much tighter fit all around. It's like when I tap it in, it fits a lot better. The other secret is if you can avoid putting in a giant plug all at once with all those features, do that. Because like you could cut a male pattern, break it into sections, and then just tap all those in at different sections. That way, if your giant male pattern suddenly shrinks, Nap, you would know anything about that, then it won't fit quite right. Know what I mean?
Shots fired, man. Shots
Damn.
Nick isn't here, so I gotta fill in.
I was like,
oh, Nick isn't here, so. But yeah, I mean, you get what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah,
if wood shrinks or grows old, if it's not the same size and geometry as when you machined it, it's just not going to fit right. So again, tricks I've learned along the way. I've had my crap moments, and dang it, I got to cut that again. And some of those tool paths take a long time, so you don't want to screw those up too many times.
No, especially on that V-bit when you're doing your male side of it. You're just like, please don't tear out. Please don't tear out. Son of a bitch!
Yeah, this guy here, 12.2 degrees or whatever, 12.4 degrees.
So you don't use a V-bit, you use a round over bit.
Well, it's
ball nose.
It's a super tight taper, 12.4 degrees with a ball nose. But here's the kicker. This is something that I learned after I made enough mistakes is like when you zero off on that tip is not 0. You have to remember that's rounded over. So in V-carve, when you tell it 0, it's expecting the actual point, not the ball. So when this thing if you set this as 0, it's going to go deeper than you intend. Now it might only be like a 64th, but when you're cutting like super fine geometry, it matters.
So what do you recommend for that then? Like if you're saying if that's the 0, right, and not the actual 0, and you know it's going to go 64 deeper, how do you compensate? Do you just put like a piece of paper or what?
You set what I call like the bottom area, the basement, you make that a little bit deeper, or you make the plug larger so that you have more of a gap in between.
Okay.
So you compensated for knowing that the difference is 164.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but like this, I did like a little cut on the surface, and I just cut it on the side to kind of illustrate how much of a gap I actually have
Okay.
at the bottom. You need that gap.
For glue.
If it's hardwood and hardwood, you're going to see gaps once that dries. And B, like that's also what's going to absorb any excess glue. So it's got somewhere to go.
Okay, it's good stuff.
But yeah, some of the cutting boards is fun. Like doing this table is fun, but now I'm ready for whatever's next. I'm really content doing the same thing over and over again.
You're dipping into different stuff and trying to figure it out, and eventually you're going to have an arsenal of different tricks and talents up your sleeve because you've tried all these different things, and you can bring them together. It's almost like what you're doing with that table. It's something new. It might be taking you longer than expected, but it's turning out beautifully.
Thank you.
So, Tim, we dove right into what's going on in the shop and whatnot with you and, the different things you're really good at. So you're you like the machine stuff. You do a lot of SolidWorks stuff. What got you into the woodworking stuff? That was just something you wanted to do, or was it something you were just able to transition from what you do in SolidWorks and stuff? Explain that.
Pretty much, yeah. Because all the funky angles on the table and stuff like that, I like to model everything in SolidWorks first because that's just how. Shut up. That's just how my brain works. You know what I mean? That's like the handshake between my brain and the actual wood. But even on the metalworking side too, if I'm going to weld up anything, I'm going to model it up on SolidWorks. I have my whole basement all drawn up in SolidWorks because if I'm going to remodel it, I want to know exactly what I'm working with. But as far as the woodworking side of it, it's a cheap medium to work with, I guess. Plus, I have the tools. I was a welder for 9 years, but I don't have a welder. I know how to weld. I weld very well, but I don't have a welder. But I do have a saw. I do have a screwdriver. I can make things. So that just kind of snowballed into, hey, let's get this gears and fire thing rolling using at least that. So where I go from woodworking, I don't exactly know. But I also do electronics with Arduino and Raspberry Pi stuff. I also do just contraptions too. If you look through my feed on Instagram, I have my little spit roaster there.
Yeah.
I found a little gear motor, and I had a bunch of bike sprockets to kind of slow it down. That's how my brain works. For my 9 to 5, I'm a product developer, so I basically invent stuff. So from idea creation to design work, draw it out, talk with folks, see if it's going to work, see if people understand it, and then if all cylinders are firing, then I'll prototype it using 3D printing, whatever, just so that we have a representative product. So that whole creation, I could also bring that at home too. So, hey, we need a table. Let's draw it up. Does everybody like the shape and color? Okay, let's put this thing together. So regardless of medium, I'm dumb enough to try anything.
That's a good thing.
Dumb. You just have the initiative. You have the initiative.
Yeah, I'm fearless with some things, but pretty reserved with everything else. I want to raise my garage. We were talking about this. Josh and I were talking about this. I want to raise my garage 2 feet. I'm going to contract that guy. Plumbing, nope, I won't do that.
A lot goes into that. You know what I'm saying? You're a master at a lot. Between the 3D printing, the CNC, computers. You're doing hand tools now. You got a lot on your plate. You're learning a lot.
Yeah, it's been an absolute wild ride. It's the cool handshake is the fact that I can also do it for my 9 to 5 and get paid for it. So
there you go.
That's pretty sweet.
So my question to you is, what's next? What's on the docket after this table? What are you going to try to learn?
How to hang gutters, how to dig a trench because the garage floods like a son of a... Basically, I'll be transitioning from doing gears and fire stuff to home upgrades because, without a shop, you only have half a shop. You're not as functional as it could be. So in my garage is my final destination. Down here, I'm in the garage or in the basement because it's temperature controlled environment that I can keep the CNC. All my other stuff is out in the garage, but the CNC is down here in the basement. So it's just a lot like home projects. Unfortunately, it's not as fun, but I still do like little kitschy stuff. Like I'll CNC a sign and pour epoxy in it. But I gotta say I'm kind of bored with that stuff. So I would like to try other things that I have not done before. But
so, what are some things you haven't done before that you're just itching to get after?
Apply more electronics to any project. Like I said, I have a lot of home projects coming up, but like I'm picturing, adding LEDs to some of it just to give it a better feel, more functionality, more form. So like I want to get back into like the electronics and programming side of things.
Heck yeah!
I said jack of all trades, master of none. So
I think that's every like maker in general.
Yeah, I mean, don't be content, right?
Right. We all have like the one thing we're super good at, but then it's like, not so great at that,
Like you guys are absolute masters at shadow boxes. Like I would love to make something like that, for all my dad's stuff. So, because my dad was in the Navy, served on the Hornet from 67 to 70. If anybody knows their history, that'll send up some clues. But so like I have a ton of his memorabilia that I just want to like put into a shadow box of some sort. So you guys are going to be my first.
I'll tell you what, man. Not to put a shameless plug out there, but I'm going to put a shameless plug. I did do a quicker how-to on how to make shadow boxes and some like really good tips and tricks. Take a look at it, and whatever questions you got, man. Listen, we're open books. We'll tell you anything. You want to know how we put the glass in the way we do? Cool. Yeah, everything. And honestly, what you'll teach us, because you want to add more electronics, I want to see how you incorporate some LEDs into a shadow box personally, because there's many different ways to do that. Some are cool, some are tacky. Other ways are, I'll call it lazy, but they're effective, right? But if you know anything about myself, Josh, and even Nick, we don't typically like to do lazy certain things. And me personally, LEDs, I don't like being lazy with those. Like the last time I incorporated LEDs, I had an aluminum track with a black diffuser inlaid into some wood. Like you could even tell it was an LED strip. You would think it was a bar of lights. Like that's how I want it to be with a shadow box. I just don't know how in the hell I'm going to do that yet.
So sweet. Challenge
there's different. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can incorporate that too. LED lights they come a long way, and because of their technology and the way they've developed, you definitely can add some flair to your projects, including shadow boxes.
Right, and it's LEDs is with the right application. There's a lot more to LEDs than just on off. Like you can make them, flow and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. Like you can dial in the colors if you want. I mean, you can have them chase. You can have them breathe. You know what I mean? Like there's so many cool things that you can do with it. With like simple code in Arduino. Like if I write something in Arduino, I'll post it so anybody else can use it too.
But what I'm interested in too is how we do our inlays for our stripes and stuff. I'm gonna tell you what, man. I want to see you do inlays on a shadow box. Like, I want to see what that looks like. Because to me, I will tell you firsthand, you'll probably do it a hell of a lot better than myself. And I don't know if Josh would agree, but I tell you what, I think your inlays will be a lot better. And I'm very interested to see what you come up with. So I hope you tackle that venture soon, because I will be watching.
Right on. I'll post when I can.
Josh, I know you don't have much shop going on.
No. We're not going on me. I need to know, man, what's going on in your shop. There seems to be something that was delivered there that was meant to go to my house, but
hell no.
That being said,
I want to know what version you got.
So, okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. But jobs, just real quick, because jobs are not as plentiful because June was super busy, but I knocked a bunch of stuff out. As I mentioned last podcast, I ended up commissioning a cherry subdued flag, painted black, carved out, currently carved out in my garage. One thing I did learn, well, not even learn, just kind of like refreshed on was wherever you zero from the same spot Z-wise. Because if you don't, you're going to get some stupid depth variation. Which I did a slight, like we're talking like 1/128th, maybe, 1/64th, something stupid small, but I could tell. So I ended up re-zeroing, rerunning that toolpath, and then coming out smooth. But it's going to be framed in walnuts and then sent on its way to Vegas, so that'll be cool. I got a couple other, like, hey, can you get these done projects? So I'll handle those. A couple hat stand, hat press, more MTI stuff that I didn't think I was ever going to touch again. But, hey, money's money, and honestly, I kind of wish I wouldn't have stopped doing it. And yes, Josh, you were right, so shush. But things that you learn, right? Mistakes that you make. So, you touched on that, Tim, and I can tell you a mistake I made. So one particular facet of woodworking that I'm not great with is the finishing. I could do the oil finish. I could do lacquers all day. But the minute you start using Minwax and those things, and you don't allow, you go too heavy with a coat. You don't allow it to dry. You get imperfections in your finish. So I had that happen yesterday. Before I got in carving, I went too heavy on the black, and I went to put the clear over it. And because of the humidity and the fact that it wasn't dry on the undercoat, it looked wrinkly. It cracked. So I had to send that son through a drum sander, which I completely ruined that piece of 80 grits. Mind you, that roll has been on there for some time. All right, so it was due to change. I think I just set it off to pasture a little sooner than I wanted to. But it's now in the burn can. So now that's, it's all obviously said and done, good to go. But I just reminded myself that, okay, 6 to 12 inches away from piece, nice light coats, let each one dry for roughly 30 minutes, especially light coats. And then before I put the clear on, I let it dry for a couple hours, put the clear on, and then now it's good to go.
So is it Minwax oil or Minwax water?
No, it's the Minwax, spray paints. So oil-based spray paints or whatever it is that they're oil-based.
Yeah. I think they have a water-based spray. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. But what I will say is this. You can put spray paint on spray paint, but you can't put lacquers on spray paint because it'll definitely get a crazy reaction. But you can put water-based finishes like polyacrylic and those things over spray paint, and it works really well. I just happened to try out the Minwax clear coating just to see what it would do, and well, obviously I learned that make sure it's dry first. But now getting to the tools. So this weekend for Father's Day, I cleaned my shop, like really cleaned my shop. The wife asked me, she goes, "Hey, what do you want for Father's Day?" I was like, I honestly don't know. Yeah. I was like, I honestly don't know. She's like, what do you want me to buy you? I was like, honestly, everything I want, unfortunately, is a little too expensive. So I thought about it for like another 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what I really want? You to come help me organize my shop. And she ate her words really quickly, but she came out. She was a trooper. She actually took two drawers that I had no organization to whatsoever, which was my sockets, my wrenches, and Allen keys. They were all in the same damn drawer, mixed in all those sorts of places. She turned the longest flat drawer into my wrench and Allen key drawer, and then put all the sockets and ratchets in one. The other one was just a catch-all drawer, which is cool. So trooper there helped me get that organized. I cleaned the hell out of the shop, put a new wall rack on the wall for my cutoffs, which I dimensioned. So all of my cutoffs are ready for cutting board material. So I'm going to glue a bunch of stuff together and make some random ass cutting boards and try to sell them. Most people will buy them. So
end grain cutting board?
Well, maybe end grain. I might try my hand because I got plenty of cutoffs for that. But I'll do some edge grain just to get some feelers out. But I might give the end grain a whirl. We'll see.
It's good stuff, man. It's better for knives.
Oh yeah.
On that, making your shop all nice and clean, Nap sends me a picture of his scraps all nice and clean and put away. But it's not really, it wasn't just of the scraps. It was like a section of the shop. And I sat there and I don't know, it had been 10 minutes just staring at this picture. I'm like, what is he trying to tell me with this fawning at. He goes, "Look at my scraps, man. They're all nice and organized." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this guy was so proud."
The scraps were all in a pile. All right, they were just a pile of mess, and I had a burn pile. Like I had a whole burn can going. I was like, okay, I need to dimension this. Put it in the burn can. My kid tried to throw half of them in the burn can. I was like, no, and like don't get me wrong, burning walnuts, it's a rite of passage, but not the good pieces. Okay,
you find good pieces.
Is Jason here? Yep.
Yeah, some people would say that little chunk like this with that weird angle, that's a good piece.
What is it? The reel goes, it was like, don't be a hoarder, don't be a hoarder, don't be. This one's got potential, this one's got potential. That's literally what it was the entire time. But no, if it was, listen, if it was a little piece, I chucked it. But if it was like a thin strip that I could throw through a drum sander and make an accent, I kept those.
Accent or like laminate or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Just everything has an use depending on dimension.
Yes. So imagine that. I would say, imagine that, but like in my garage, I also save like motors and bits of steel. I mean, that like C channel section that's like maybe a foot long. That's got purpose.
Yeah, it's all got purpose. But eventually,
what are you gonna use that for? I don't know.
One day, it'll be useful. Don't you worry.
Next time he moves, he's gonna find that piece and be like, "I never did use this."
No, and that's the problem. So I actually have been getting better about like I've been here for a year as of like 2 weeks ago, and I looked through things that I just haven't touched, haven't used. Certain things I haven't even hooked up. Like I have a whole like box that's like a joystick with push buttons and all sorts of stuff for my Onefinity. I haven't set it up yet because one, I don't have enough how to, and I was going one direction with Daniel, and then we kind of went away because the Elite Onefinity came out. So we'll say the research and development kind of paused on that. It still will be a thing. It's just it's not the time for it right now. So one of these days we'll get hooked up. But then getting into research and development and the new machine. So I'm at work, and mind you, this thing came freight, so I technically had to sign for it. But dude came and rang my doorbell to drop, to do the thing, drop it off. I had to get him on my camera, like out through my phone, because I was like, "Oh crap, he's there," and I'm at work, and my wife's at work. I can't sign for this, so I was like, "Hey, can you hear me?" And went through the whole thing. I was like, "Yeah, you can just leave it there, but please leave like a section of it where I could see it in the camera, so nobody tries to come steal this 150-pound machine, off my driveway." Especially because I put a story up about there being a CNC in my driveway. But not enough people in North Dakota follow me. So unless you're traveling from Jersey or Texas or...
I thought about it. I looked at plane tickets.
I'm a lot closer to Wisconsin, but...
Yeah, no, you're not getting here in time to steal my machine. Good luck. But I'll tell you what. Had someone tried stealing my machine, I would have studied that video, used a particular set of skills, would have found you, and ended you.
Well, now that you admitted that on camera.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but sarcastically speaking, okay, because I really don't think it would be that big a deal.
No, too late. Okay. Edited it out.
But anyways, the machine is not unboxed yet, though, because I, admittedly, was at work until about 5:30, went and warmed up for softball, played softball, came home, dragged it into the shop, and it's still sitting in its container. Which, mind you, the container was a little beat up, a little curious as to what the contents on the inside look like. I'm sure they're fine because I'm sure the insides were bolted down. The actual frame of the machine was bolted down, and then the other stuff was packed well. It was pretty solid packing, and I hear nothing rattling around, so I would say we're probably fine. But that machine, I will probably, right after the podcast today, go take the lid off the top and put it on my outfeed because my outfeed is clear, and take a look and just see what we got going on. It doesn't look like a whole lot of setup's going to need to happen, but I can tell you that Corey is going to hook it up as far as the how-tos, how to get things going on it. He's going to help me create the file, which is a 30-millimeter bullet, or round, really, so one of these, all the way through and through with wood. So I'm going to do a section of walnut with a section of maple or cherry, and get the first one out and see what it looks like. So I'm hoping to run that machine this weekend.
Yeah, I have that up and running a lot faster, and Nick can get his going.
Yeah, so I was gonna save that, but since you mentioned it, yeah, I'm gonna make sure this machine gets set up because I'm more than excited to run this first rotary job. Like That is the one thing. So, Tim, you said how you want to try different things. Rotary is one of the things I want to get into. I can use a lathe. I'm okay on a lathe, whatever. Repeater, cool. I talked about it, but then I sat there and thought about it. I don't want to have any major screw-ups on a lathe, especially because I've already been hit in the face once with a piece of wood coming off a lathe. I'll just do it where I can secure it with
Was it a hardwood or softwood?
Oh, it was definitely a hardwood. But yeah, so I'm really excited to get that machine up and running and learning the wrapping toolpath in Vectric Aspire. I did have to upgrade my software to Aspire to get the wrap program. I started tooling with it a little bit. It's not too terribly hard to use. You can take a flat image and you can literally apply it to a cylinder with the wrap. Yep, and it'll just put it around a cylinder. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to be some stuff that I'm really going to toy with. One of the projects I really want to tackle. It comes with the end grain stuff. I actually want to make an end grain chessboard and make my own chess pieces.
Good for you, dude. That's awesome. So who's that other guy on Instagram that does like the super
Nick Burchell?
Yeah, like do that, but like I don't know, like he's chosen his anatomy part, so I'm curious.
Well,
to see what you come up with.
So on that, I've talked about that, right? He's trying to create the perfect piece of anatomy, but yeah, right. But no, so if you don't know, he put a story up about how he was mentioned as maker of the year type stuff like that, or in contention for maker of the year. I forget exactly the wording of it, but my man he does architecture. He's been doing the whole thing for like 20 years, and his dad had the Haas and all these things. It's freaking phenomenal. Like, he's part of the reason why I got the rotary machine, believe it or not. Because first of all, Nick sent me a titty handle for my saw stop. Okay. And I was like, this is freaking cool. And then I watched some of his videos, some of his reels, and he had all this cool stuff. I'm like, I want to do that. Not necessarily the anatomy piece, but
let's just be honest now. Okay, you saw boobs and you got interested.
I did.
I'm gonna commission something from you then. Like, I want a shifter I want a titty shifter.
I might have to talk to Nick about that, just because I don't want to take from his repertoire things. Yeah. If anything, I'll be like, hey man, someone's asking me to do this. Hook me up with some titties. I mean,
that's not going to be an awkward conversation.
Yeah, I'm not going to 3D scan myself here because just
please don't.
You're going to shift it with man boobs.
Freaking move shifter.
Oh man,
damn it!
But that was part of my inspiration to get the rotary. But honestly, it was Nick, and I'm really excited. So to get started with it.
Here's a question: like the files that like you can machine off of. Like if I in SolidWorks create some 3D axial something, you can make that happen, huh? Ah, sweet! I have another outlet. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the cool thing too. I'm going to learn how to do 2D to a wrap function. I'm going to learn 3D modeling into the machine and making it do it. I'm freaking like stoked to do this. Now, mind you, it's going to be a slow rolling process. I understand how X, Y, and Z work, but I don't know how. I forget what the fourth axis is called with the rotary. I want to say it's like, what's that?
X, Y, Z.
We'll call it. I think it's like alpha, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a letter for it. I don't remember what the hell it's called, but learning that fourth axis is going to be new to me. From what I understand, it's fairly similar to doing the 2D work as far as zeroing and all those things. But I can tell you, like the machine will tell it rotations per minute and all that stuff. But I'm also using open builds, so that's different than what I'm used to. I've never used open builds, so that's also something I'm going to learn. And they use that because it's easier program to code to. For machines like this, especially because it's a custom CNC. It's not a Onefinity. It's not a Shipoko. It's Odyssey CNC, Odyssey Cyclone CNC. So it's going to be an interesting adventure for sure. So I'm excited. I'm going to run it this weekend. That is definitely a promise to myself.
Awesome, so that's so cool.
But Friday night is Friday night setup. Saturday's running.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna send you some files
I'm excited.
just so you can have something to try from an outside source.
Hell yeah, I look forward to it. But yeah, so enough bragging about my shop and my new machine, which is finally here. I'm really excited to see my logo on this thing. That's honestly the thing I'm
it's
really looking forward to. But Josh, man, listen, I know you don't have a shop, not throwing shots or anything like that. How are things going with school, man? How's the lathe turning on the back of the truck?
I've actually been in shops this week, so we have a little bit to talk about there. But before we go into what's happening with me, the fourth axis denotes the inclusion of an A-axis, rotation around the X-axis. And the fifth axis denotes the B-axis, rotation around the Y. So just some little bit of info that Google was very kind to giving out. But actually,
see, folks, even without machines and tools, he's still useful.
Right? Yeah, kind of. I think we could talk about Ben could fill you in on that. I actually got the pleasure of going over to his house, and if you don't know Ben Warren, he's from Beach Time Woodworks, and we got to play in the shop a little, set up his laser, not really set it up, but show him a couple different things, and we engraved some glass for a new Instagram user. His handle is handcrafted wood treasures, brand new. Set up his Instagram while we were there. Was it Monday yesterday? And that is Terrell. And we got him on Instagram, so go follow him. New Instagram user, longtime maker. He just is making his presence known now. So, anyway, long story short, we got some glass engraved. I got to see Ben's shop. He made some. He just said hamburgers, but they were more like steaks, like 6-ounce hamburgers that were smoked, and it was a great time. We went over some programming stuff. Go ahead.
I was saying, if it's 6 ounces, it's a hamburger.
This thing.
Anything smaller than 8 ounces is a snack.
Yeah, these things. I had one. Okay, I can eat, but I had literally one of these hamburgers, and I was like, I could barely finish it. But yeah, it was a good time. We got to go through a whole bunch of stuff. Got to see his 2 shops. Apparently, he has more pen blanks than I've ever known. I think more than woodcraft. It was a great time, great people. Like I said, we learned some things on the laser, got spun up a little bit. We went into light burn, just some little things in there to kind of hopefully make his life a little easier. And just, some basic stuff. And we're going to go a little bit deeper next time I go over there and get into some more laser stuff and 3D carving. So yeah, it was nice to get in the shop. It was nice to do all that. I haven't done anything personally when it comes to woodworking. I still have that carve kit, and I need to get some more wood so I can do some more mallets and different stuff on the lathe in the back of the truck. But it is what it is. Doing what I can with what I have. Learning some different programs and stuff like that. It's going to start doing that, restructuring my web page, and I'm still getting people asking me for orders, and I unfortunately have to deny because can't really do much right now. So that's unfortunate. I hate doing that to people. I had someone ask me for a plaque that's due next week, and I'm like, not going to happen. Pretty close to finding out my new setup and the new base. They told us they have a house for us, but we don't know what style yet. So hopefully by the end of the week, I'll kind of understand, if it's going to be 2 bay or 1 bay in each side of the house. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Being able to start looking at how we're going to set up the house is going to be nice, getting everything ready for that. School here is doing fine, diving into it now and going through. The whole class wants me to make something for the graduation, which I sure saw it coming, but yeah, it is what it is. So we'll figure something out with that. We'll make something for our instructors when we leave, and that would be a project on its own. I just got to figure out whose shop I can utilize for that. But all in all, it's going fairly well over here. I can't complain. Missing the family though. Can't wait to get back to see them. It's gonna be hectic when I do get back, but when everything's done and said, my little one, can't call him little no more. He's about to be 7. Noah. He's going to be going to school pretty much right away when we get moved, and life goes on. So a lot going on, but it's not as fast paced as I'm used to. And I don't know what to do with my hands, if you will. So
you needed a recharge though, Josh. Let's just be honest. Like, I get it, you're at school, you know, a lot of stress with, you know, the upcoming move and whatnot, but you needed a recharge from just making, I think. Your recharge is a slight bit different, but
it's a non-conventional vacation. Think of it that way.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I agree. Everyone needs that time, but being home and like being able to go in your shop and do just whatever you want to do, that would be the perfect recharge. Here, it's just kind of like a forced recharge. It's like, no, you're not going to go make anything. You're going to go study. So it is what it is.
You set a lathe on the back of a truck. That's awesome.
Yeah, I need to get more wood. I should have brought some with me, but I didn't have time to cut up the pieces I had to bring. I might have found some nice.
Steal some from Nick. He's not home.
Yeah, I'm sure that would go over well. I could set up his CNC while I'm there too. Take the wood.
So ask him for the code to his garage. Oh wait, he's comms out.
But yeah, he's comms out. He's on the ocean doing something.
Or something.
I'm not gonna know. Never mind. That's
nope.
Yeah. Just we're not going down there. But
it's because you burned it all, Jason. Apparently, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what can you do? You got to keep warm at night. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but that's about it for me. Honestly, there's not much going on when it comes to the shop and whatnot. I definitely need to sit down and do a whole bunch of stuff I said I was going to do, more on the computer and whatnot. You know, when you have nothing to do, it just gets a little bit hard to get motivated when it comes to the program side of things, because that's really not that exciting. I do need to go ahead and make the file for the upcoming shadow box that's going to be due in a couple years. But I'd please like to sit down. And that, in fact, will have some inlays in it. The piece itself, I do have to ask the client if they want the inlays like the picture they sent me, or if they want the style stripes I currently do. So it says play with some leather for the innards of your melts. Oh, that could have went different ways. I don't know anything about leather work. I do need a new wallet though. Maybe I could. My wallet's in desperate need. Like I rely on my wife to buy wallets for me because like that's like one of those gifts that like I've gotten from family members and I intend not to buy. But I didn't get one this last Christmas and this was falling apart. So I need to find someone that's really good with leather, or even I don't know. Maybe Jason's right. Maybe I should get some leather. Work it out.
I was saying, take up leatherworking.
Yeah, I don't really need another hobby. That gets dangerous.
Well, think of it instead of as like another hobby, it's like an extension of woodworking, right? Because you can always apply leather to woodworking. So, I mean, you had mentioned your shadow boxing, put like some leather handles. I had started thinking about that right away. Like, how else can we apply leather to traditional woodworking that still makes it look?
It would be cool
really awesome
to make like a bench or something like that and have like a leather top or something like that. I do have plans for furniture, but I was talking to someone else that's a hobbyist woodworker, and they're like, "Why don't you do furniture?" I'm like, "Well, that was the initial plan for my shop. Is I was going to do fine furniture, but after doing some large projects in that one car garage, hell no." Even that retirement chest that I did, moving that around in that small space is a nightmare, especially like going between the CNC and the laser. If I dropped that on either one of those, it was heavy. Like, it was going to do damage. So it's nerve-wracking moving things around, but I like doing it. So really hoping for some more room in this next shop and being able to kind of dive a little deeper into some other stuff. You know, Tim, just like you, I want to try some hand tools. I actually regret not bringing more hand tools with me so I could, maybe do a box or something simple. Dovetails, just working on joints. It's hot, I'll tell you that much. But it's Texas in the summer, and honestly, it's not bad. I like the humid heat versus the dry heat. So I'm not going to complain. But yeah, that's what's happening in the back of my truck. / other people's workshops, and kind of like a gypsy right now, bopping around.
Like I said, just head over to Nick's shop. He's not using it.
Yeah, I definitely could do some nice stuff when he's gone. He has
So
that nice laser too.
Hey, seriously, real quick. So Jason mentioned Tandy Leather. There's a not even 10, 15 minutes from me, man. It's right down. I already forget the damn freeway there. It's only been a year, but it's right down the freeway.
410.
410, yes.
Yeah.
Down 410. And honestly, if you want to talk to anybody about leatherworking and even making a leather handle, talk to T. That's his stuff, is leather. He's really good with leather work.
Oh, okay. I know he does straps for the hats and stuff.
He knows a thing or two when it comes to leather. So definitely hit him up before you leave. Maybe get a couple tips on how to work with some leather. And then obviously you got Joey Steelblade too, who dabbles as well.
I'll be trying to visit him too while I'm here. There's quite a few. I'll be going up to T's shop here at some point in time, checking his shop out. The great thing about being here is there are so many different woodworkers and just makers around that you could throw a rock and you find somebody.
Yep.
Back in Jersey, there was a lot of makers, but they were so spread out. And just being able to find the time to travel because, we all know how busy the schedules get.
Jersey's not that big.
Or right across the street from
close to Jersey.
you know. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, whatever.
Etsy Warriors Unite! I mean,
more like, I'm not going to go down. I'm going to be good. I have nothing against those individuals.
Take the high road, Josh. Take the high road.
I've already done this conversation, and he knows it.
Yeah.
You push the button. It is what it is. We'll just leave it at that. But one thing I have got to do that I haven't done a lot is I've been able to go on Instagram and actually spend some time looking. And because of that, I'm noticing a lot of people in the growth of the community as far as the different things they're doing and talent and trying out different things and succeeding and just like that. And it's truly amazing. Honestly, it is. It's an amazing being able to watch people that started working and now they're doing some amazing stuff, or they're testing the boundaries of their tools or their current talent, and that alone, spending a little time and seeing that is pretty cool. So Nat's going to get a fresh towel for Christmas. No. He just doesn't know.
Oh, hell no.
I don't think it's going to be fresh either.
We're not going to tell.
It better have your logo embroidered in it.
Oh, we'll have something embroidered.
I'll see now that's just nasty.
That's just nasty, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
That is all I have going on right now. But Tim, would you like to give the tip of the week for us this episode?
Tip of the week. Well, miter blades are not as precise as you hope they are. That is my biggest tip, because those, even like that fancy Bosch, right? That blade still moves. You can still make it move. It's good for rough cuts, not finish cuts. There, I said it. I don't know, man. I've been burned by that stupid thing too many times. I'm not even putting any pressure on. Why is it not
the deflection? Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's frustrating. Because the Bosch can do compound, miter, tip it.
I don't have that much deflection on mine. That's curious. You could tighten that up, right? It's loose when you first get it. You got to tighten it.
And maybe I mean, admittedly, I didn't exactly put a lot of time into the calibration of the saw, but again, I didn't assume it was meant to be a precision instrument. That's not how I use it anyway. It's just good for rough cuts. So all the fancy final cuts or the edges are either hidden, or I can use the table saw with a better blade.
Yeah, it makes sense. But
I guess outside of that is, aim small, miss small. All the stuff that I'm doing on this table, all those funky angles, I have all that modeled up in SolidWorks, so I know exactly what that angle's supposed to be. And in SolidWorks, I could take that out to the eighth decimal point, right? Obviously, you'll never get that with any handsaws or what have you. But the closer you really get yourself, the less those errors are going to accrue throughout the project. So aim small, miss small, know what tools are precise and what aren't.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Well, with that, we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, I want to send a special thank you out to another podcast. This last week, I got to join the Creative Maker podcast and their team, and we had some good laughs, and they got me in a couple questions. It was a good time, though. If you haven't caught the episode, go check it out.
Too. Okay, I'm a host too.
Hey, I think I played that just fine. Yeah, it was it was a good time. Honestly, it was natural, and that's what the best part. Joining another podcast for an episode, or having a guest like Tim, a natural conversation. That's not forced. It's always nice, and you could tell. And that was just like Tim doing an amazing job on this. Natural, fit right in. I felt like I fit in with those guys pretty well. So just. Thank you for having me on, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah, keep up the good work. I am enjoying that podcast for sure.
Yeah, but with that, we can go ahead and wrap this up. And Tim, if you want to say any last words or anything else.
Give me your last words.
Not your last words.
Show me what you got.
Yes. We should do a Rick and Morty episode with just... little tidbits in there.
Get swifty.
Nope. I don't have anything super life-changing. You put me on the spot, man.
It's all good. If you think of anything before we close up, feel free to just jump in there. Let us know. I do want to thank you for coming on and joining us. Not last minute, but it was fairly last minute. It's definitely a pleasure to have you on and get to talk to you.
It was an honor. Thank you.
You're incredibly knowledgeable, and especially when it comes to the programs, and you can definitely tell you woodworking as well. Every time you make something, it's impressive. So thank you for joining us tonight, and I've got nothing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Let's go and fling it over to Nap like a booger.
Oh God. But hey,
was your mouth open?
But hey, so I do appreciate you joining us. As Josh said, Tim, I appreciate you joining us, man. Seriously, and getting a little bit of insight, even on the inlay game. I'm looking forward to more conversations with you about inlays because, I'm going to attempt the edge grain stuff, and we'll go ahead and do some inlays and see how that works out. But all I'll say is this: we like to bring makers on because, one, we like to get to know them, but two, it just shows that the community is that strong that we could literally call Tim or message Tim like, "Hey, man, you want to come on? We need someone on here," and he usually, I'm there. So that just shows that the community is so strong, and that we'll do anything we can to help each other out. So just keep doing that, keep making the community better, and that's all I got. Josh, let's close it. Yes, with your final words of the final words.
Thank you, Nap. I'm going to close this with my final words. Thank you for listening to the 156th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. We appreciate you joining us tonight and joining Tim from Gears of Fire. Check him out on his Instagram page. Doing some amazing stuff on there. Hopefully you can get into your shop, go make some sawdust, and Sawdust Nation Podcast out.
And I want to go open my CNC. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah. We got to find any reason we can to keep them here.
No, absolutely not.
Now, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Werewolves of London. There's my contribution.
Yes, love it.
There it is. Nicely done.